Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. It's once again I, the Duchess Precious Ken, and I'm very excited to have a new interview for you. First off, I have Katie here with me, which is always exciting. We have Katie on camera. Hi, Katie.
Hello, it is I, Katie.
Welcome. And I'm going to introduce our guests in a minute. But before, I did receive, as always, in unboxing, a lovely new t-shirt. And this one, I love it. It says, "Real Gothics are disgusted." And it is an empathy test t-shirt because someone went to the wonderful band Empathy Tests on their, I think, YouTube page on one of their videos and left a like 3-page long tirade about how they aren't really goth. And they took that energy and they used it to put into a t-shirt, which I love. And so the same thing here for Sounds and Shadows. Real Gothics would be disgusted by me for certain. So I love that Isaac did that. That's super cool. Other great updates I got the chance to go out for my birthday week. And I went to Detroit and saw Black Rose Burning and met George in person for the first time, played with Vasm, another very cool band. And so that was amazing. And then a few days later, I got to see Peter Hook. And this is one of those, I know I always talk about, I would much rather see the actors, Boot Blacks, Crooks Lies, somebody up and coming in their prime for $20 or $15 than to go see Peter Murphy propped up on stage with sticks and wires at 65 years old and pay $120 for it. But I'll tell you what, Peter Hook I've seen I think 6 times now in 6 different cities with Rachel, and it's amazing every time. It blows me away the amount of just energy, caring, and that he continues to play smaller venues than he'd have to at a very reasonable price. And it's the closest I think that you're going to get to actually seeing Joy Division, New Order done right, like it would have been if you would have seen it in the late 70s, early 80s. So if you get the chance to go check out that Peter Hook and the Light tour, it's always amazing every single time. I highly recommend. Now that the preamble is out of the way, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce my friend and fellow reviewer. They are an amazing DJ, promoter, just an intricate part of the scene from Obscura Undead. Azy, welcome to the show. It's you.
Hi, Ken. Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
It has. Too long. I was on your show the one time, I remember. But then we never got to this. So I'm glad that it's finally happened. And we got a lot of exciting things to talk about going on for you in the meantime. But for maybe some of our viewers who aren't aware, start off by telling me a little bit about your history, how you found this scene and it became important to you, and how that led you to Obscura Undead and some of the projects you did.
How I found the scene and how it became important, how it led to Obscura Undead and all the projects. Whew, that is a long story, Ken. You're talking about like 20 years of my life there.
Yeah, we got a hot minute. I want to hear about it. Tell the people.
I mean, so when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I thought I hated music because I never found anything that really like spoke to me. And people would talk about how, being into like their favorite artists and how it made them feel something. And I'm just like, music doesn't make me feel. I must not have emotions. I must not like music. But I still tried things around, and I would always go and pick up CDs for albums I thought were interesting at the used bookstore. And I ended up picking up a bunch of Susie CDs and Sisters of Mercy CDs.
Yeah.
Just because I liked the cover art. And the first time I put in First and Last and Always, I was transformed my life, set me down a path that I've never really deviated from. And it was then that I realized, oh, I don't hate music. I just haven't found what I like yet. And turns out it was Sisters of Mercy, and it's all been downhill from there.
So not goth, because it was Sisters of Mercy.
Oh yeah, no, industrial groove, obviously. Yeah, no, good old
Dark
Calamity, huh?
jazz. Got it. No, I understand.
Yeah. And I just did a lot of my own thing. I started going to like club nights in the mid 2000s and being just really confused because I'm just like, oh, maybe I don't understand what this goth thing is because all we're listening to is Velvet Acid Christ and Comba Christ and
Was this when you were still up north before you got down to Florida?
yeah, I was up in Milwaukee. Yeah.
Oh, Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's Algonquin for the good land. I actually saw Alice Cooper in Milwaukee once. That was fun.
That's awesome. Now,
But
he's from over here in Michigan, where we're at. Alice Cooper, yeah.
yeah, I think he tours every single year. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
Because he's old as sin.
He is not a young person for certain.
Yeah.
I feel like somewhere along the way, though, like left behind the rock star life and just, eats vegan paste and pure mountain water and has like 16-year-old linebacker blood pumped directly into his heart or something once a year.
Doing the Iggy Pop diet. Got it. Yeah. I remember listening to Alice Cooper's radio show back when I was a teenager, because I don't know if he still does that, but I had this like radio thing on my old PC with this wire that if I taped it up on the wall just right, I could get that broadcast. And he played like goth rock and like contemporary alternative bands every once in a while. And I'd sit there with my little recording program on the computer. Whenever I found something that I really liked, I would record it and then just listen to it a lot. And there wasn't really a good way to figure out what bands those were back then.
Right.
But it all kind of fit into that goth rock mold because he would play some of that. So that's another way that I kind of got introduced to the music. So thank you, Alice Cooper, for that. And yeah, going to club nights out in Milwaukee, like I love going to concerts and stuff, but I thought I didn't really have a good handle on what goth was because it was very heavily industrial at the time.
Sure.
And I was like, okay. And then I moved to Japan, and I got involved with like the punk scene in Japan and made friends there. And it was so DIY and there was so much love in it and it was super underground. And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. Then I came back to the States and
wait a minute, time out. I had no idea that you went over and lived in Japan and were kind of in the scene there for a while. What prompted this?
I was doing a Japanese studies program.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Rachel, for example, my lovely and wonderful partner, speaks fluent Japanese and is very into that. So that's so awesome. I didn't know that about you.
Oh, my Japanese has gotten so bad.
You should practice together. That would be
cool. I really loved the punk scene there because, out on the streets, you didn't get a lot of acceptance, but like in these punk circles, they didn't know who you were. You could barely speak to one another, but there was just such an atmosphere of inclusion and camaraderie. And that definitely has influenced a lot of my like feeling on scene spaces like ever since. So I came back to Milwaukee, and then eventually I moved out to Honolulu.
What? I can't believe I didn't know any of this. This is amazing.
And it was in Honolulu I started getting active in the very small goth scene there, not just, going to events, but that's where I started DJing and organizing events with a friend of mine.
Did you know Raised in Black? That's like the one Hawaiian goth band that I know that we opened for a few times.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with them. I think the singer lives in Jacksonville now.
Yeah.
And is a hairdresser.
Yes, that is true.
Yes. yes, believe me, everybody there is just like, oh, the good old days back when the scene was good and vibrant and vital, and we had Raised in Black, and everything was mashed potatoes and gravy. um, but
I
yeah,
actually
that was a
came
big
mad
like
one night.
touch point for a lot of the scene in Honolulu was like those days. And I, it's always, I love hearing stories about like what people thought the good old days were, because it's always what they feel like they're missing is that like sense of community and camaraderie, always. And so, you know, I started DJing there, started learning the ins and outs of organizing events. And then before I moved to Florida, I managed to get in contact with Mouse. And I was telling her, like, hey, I'm moving to like the Tampa area, you know, like I'm a DJ, what's going on out there? And she gave me the rundown. And eventually, when I moved out, we met and she had me on as a guest at these nights that she was doing on Mondays.
Mhm.
So I would spin at those. And then eventually I was just like, hey, I'm noticing that the club, it's very industrial focused. And like my preference definitely leans more towards like newer music, especially non-English music. Like I had an opportunity in Honolulu with Anne Love to spin on the alternative college radio station that she had once.
Yes,
And
love Ann. Super cool. Love their interviews.
yeah, for real. Like
They get
some of the names she
on
gets,
their
I'm just like,
interviews. Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, no, she's great. Um, and she had me on the radio, and like that's something that I've always been like always trying to push is new music and non-English music. And I got out here and I was just like, I kind of expected for Tampa having a bigger scene, and especially with like Florida having so many Spanish speakers, we'd maybe hear a little bit more, but it was still very industrial heavy, exactly what I had experienced up in Milwaukee. And I was just like, oh man, I kind of want a space of my own. And I was like, hey Mouse, like, how do you feel about this? Like, um, you know, like there are definitely people who like want to hear more goth stuff, who want to hear newer stuff, who, you know, would want to get involved. And it kind of just went from there. And we've been trying to figure out exactly what Obscure Undead is ever since. It's founded on the music, but honestly, like it shifts so much. So for me, like that community aspect is really important because of my experiences and like other really strong community scenes. Although I always appreciate having help with it because I'm an introvert and I need someone with big extrovert energy to like help me out with that. And that's in a lot of cases sometimes Mouse, but you know, two people cannot be everything for a scene. So we really do rely so much on just people like helping out. And we have little obscure and dead enclaves like all around the country. So up north on the East Coast in St. Louis, just people from all over
Now you have
doing the
Michigan
OU thing.
Mouse here in Michigan as well.
Yes, it's Me Mouse. He used to be Orlando Mouse, but now he's Me Mouse for Michigan.
And it just came up and spun our local Kalamazoo Goth Night Chaos. And I got to see them DJ for the first time. It was very exciting.
Yeah, no, Mouse was so excited for that. And it looked like such a fun time. And since I started doing Obscure and Dead, just the number of people that I've connected with through music has just it's changed my life. It's been one of the most profound things because I've always tried to figure out kitty cat. I've always like felt like I don't have anything to give back. And then eventually I just kind of you know, it's like putting on boots for the first time and they don't quite fit and you got to stretch them out until they're comfy.
What, is that how boots work?
Huh?
I don't have any cool boots. But is that how they work? You have to like stretch them out and like it. Sorry for interrupting. That's a total digression. You know what? I do have an actual question for you.
Yeah.
So like you've moved around a super ton and you know, prior to doing Obscura Undead, was there like everywhere that you've gone, you've had to find your music there and stuff. So if someone's new to town, how do you kind of recommend them going about finding their scene?
Good question.
That's a great question. I've had people reach out to me and ask me like what's going on like in the Tampa area, and the best way that I found to do that is to, it's not about only come to my thing. It's so and so is doing this, so and so is doing this, so and so is doing this. These are the vibes of each one, like maybe try them all out, or if one of them sounds better than the other, go support.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about trying to hoard people at your own event.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's always really difficult when you're new to town to find out where the show spaces are, or where like the arts and culture is that applies most to you and stuff. And so
Right.
like there are the resources that you can find online through like Facebook events and stuff, but I feel like gone are the days of flyers at coffee shops and stuff.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and it doesn't help that in Tampa, I haven't found that cool coffee shop that has everything, and it's unfortunate. St. Pete and Tampa are both in Tampa Bay, and they're maybe a half hour away from each other, but they're very much, we're only talking about the things going on in our particular like city. So
But
yeah, you do not get as complete a range of just flyering as would be good. Which is why I try to give folks, when they ask me like this is what's going on. I might not like a particular thing, but it's going on within our scene spaces. I keep a calendar for all of the stuff going on in Tampa Bay, just for my own purposes and to share with like our Discord folks, because they asked for it and I usually get invited to anything anyway. And if I can curate that resource in a way that helps someone who isn't as like in the thick of it, I'm absolutely happy to.
so I think you brought up a really good thing there. And I love that question, Katie. That's a great one, because that's something I kind of wonder too when I travel, when we went to Germany or Athens or anything like that. How do you find stuff that's going on if you're traveling, going around and doing it? So Discord, I think, is one that's more recent that you brought up, that is a good, where you could search a local scene there. I think Reddit is another one where sometimes you can kind of tap into what's happening in a local goth scene. You know what Facebook really is too. I remember I went when we were in Athens, I did a search for, I think it was just Goth Night Athens or Joy Division Athens or a couple different things like that. And I found this place that we ended up in, this small bar that had this totally cool, like underground record vinyl spinning goth night. And they thought that me and Rachel were trying to seek them out uh, because they were anarchists, and like they had secret police in Athens that would find anarchist
Oh,
or whatever. And they were all like, because I said, hey, nice to meet you, like we'll buy you a drink, like this is super cool, mate. And he was like, wait a minute, you said you were American, why did you just say mate? Are you with the cops? What the fuck? And we won them over by the end of the night, but it took a hot minute. And you can find a lot of things like that. And then there's also things like Sounds and Shadows and Obscura Undead, which I think are great resources to communities on there to find what's happening in your local city anywhere or a place you're visiting, and hope to tap in and find what's right for you.
that's honestly one of my great joys is when people ask me like, "Hey, I'm going to be visiting this city. It's like on the other side of the country. Do you know anybody there who you could like connect me with who would know what's going on?" And I'm just like, "Yes. Go do all the things, meet all the people, have a fun time." Because I've also visited club spaces in a lot of different cities across the US, and it is hard
Yeah.
when nobody knows who you are and you're just showing up because, well, goths were a very I don't want to say finicky bunch, even though that's true, but there's definitely that like distrust of outsiders.
We do. We have reason to distrust, especially if you've been in it a long time,
Yes.
which you have to kind of build up that confidence to let strangers in. It's true. And
Hmm.
I agree with you. And I feel the same way. I get people that ask me stuff like that all the time. And It does. It makes me feel like the Godfather. I'm like, well, perhaps I could offer you some assistance in this time of need, but a time would come later when perhaps I would have to call on you. And yeah, no, it's good times.
I remember my partner once, he's not a goth. He was asking me, like, why are goths always so standoffish? And I had to sit him down and explain to him, all of us have in one shape or another, like one form or another, like experience some form of really extreme harassment
Sure.
from random ass people. And it unfortunately like makes us very distrustful until we get to know somebody.
I think beyond that too, I mean, going further, that isn't the same for me, as a white cis dude. Like it is a big different experience when you're kind of going to basically anyone else but me, but the type of fetishizing and whatnot that happens to anyone in the scene, you have to be careful you don't know who you're dealing with. And that is a different mindset that happens for women, non-binary, anybody else that's kind of a part of the scene and going through it.
Well, I mean, even for like a, white cis het dude, you're wearing makeup, someone's gonna give you shit for it.
I've had my ass kicked plenty of times. Sure, I hear that.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing I always say in situations like that is any day I feel like it, I could decide to not put it on. You know what I mean? And that
That's
is
true.
true for everybody else, And so that's to me why it's a bit different.
That is true. Yeah, I remember back when I used to smoke, like never go outside and smoke by yourself.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten like harassed and had people either scream at me or try to pick me up. And it's just like, either way, like not really into this. Always have a goth buddy.
Now that should be a t-shirt. Always have a goth buddy. So I have a lot of things I want to hit on and topics I want to get to on this. But I feel like sometimes because the intro story, I always get 30 minutes into the interview and don't give Katie a chance to jump in with questions and thoughts. I'm going to check myself on this and say, Katie, do you have anything else, whether it's about kind of obscura undead, doing kind of what we do, whether it's interviews or anything like that, that you want to know about how they got obscura undead going?
I mean, there are so many questions that we could get into when it comes to the nitty gritties of starting your own page and your own following and stuff. But what do you feel outside of maybe being that main contact for people when they're trying to find a thing to do? Like, what's been the most rewarding part of it for you?
That's a really hard thing to answer because there's a lot about it that's really rewarding. Just getting to have genuine interactions with people about things that I love and things that they love, and meeting in the middle in a giant love sandwich about, spooky shit that makes me so happy. But I've had I've had people like find me at fests and stuff like that where they've come in from out of town and I have no idea who they are and they know exactly who I am, and it was really scary at first, but people just would come and tell me these stories about how what I'm doing, like how much it means to them. And it's just like all I'm doing is talking about music, but I don't know what exactly it is, but for some folks it really resonates with them and it makes their day better just to listen to me talk. And just having that impact of being able to just make someone's life like a little bit more bearable has been it's a really profound realization that like I can do that for other people.
Yeah, I mean, this whole genre and community has been really underground, and I feel like it's just really nice for the listeners and stuff to feel noticed and to know that the things that they're into, other people are into, and to be able to finally get some of those fun facts and those conversations started.
And I think going back to something Azy said before is there's a lot of roads into the scene, and some of them are music based, getting into the Sisters of Mercy or finding that, but also a lot of them are A, aesthetic based, and B, just needing a safe space based. The goth scene has been a place where people can kind of challenge gender constraints or anything else, aesthetic ideals, and find a place where you can go in and do this and explore it and be yourself. And then a lot of those people find the music and find that in other ways, but it goes both roads, and neither one is better or right, or it's all about finding a path into this place where you love the aspects of the macabre or the dark scene. So no, I think that's great to kind of talk about whether it's graphic novels, music, or movies, or wherever gets you there. I'm just glad that you came.
A big part of my influence was when I was 6. For some reason or another, my dad had he would just let us watch whatever and rent whatever. And I was 6, and I got to see Interview with the Vampire, and I was like,
Yeah, I can understand that. I think that what really pulled me into this was that my very first crush on anyone was Gomez Adams.
All right, so I do want to veer back towards some of what I really want to dig into and talk about here. First off, you recently on the Sounds and Shadows singles chart had a single that you did as a collab that you landed on our singles chart. Tell me a little bit about what that was, how it came together, and what it felt like to do that collaboration.
well, so my band broke up in February, right? And I was thinking it would be a lot of fun to do some collaborative stuff, take some of the I was in a weird place with I was I don't want to write music, but I want to still do something and break out of it. So I made a post on my Facebook profile about wanting to do about how a bunch of my goals. Ooh, I should go back to that list and see if I've hit any other goals, but a bunch of goals for the year. And one of them was to collaborate like on a one-off. And Fernando from Play Garden reached out and was just like, hey, let's do this. And I'm like, cool. And then he followed up with me and he was like, you still want to do this? And I'm just like, yes. And then he sent me something. He's like, do you think we can make this work? And I'm like, no, I hate it. And then he wrote something else and I listened to it and I'm like, wow. And then I freaked out because I'm just like, how can I do this justice? That moment of just existential crisis, oh my God, I'm not good enough for this.
Yes.
And then some procrastination and then a bunch of life shit. And then I decided, you know what? I want to write something. I want to write lyrics for this that make a statement or at least something that's meaningful to me. Oh, but what are the vocals going to sound like? I don't know. Just a lot of freaking out. Collaboration involves a lot of freaking out, I guess, at least for me.
Well, because a lot of times that's what's different in 2022 or even a bit before that. But it used to be when you're doing a collaboration back, it was somebody that you knew face to face a lot. And now we have these chances or opportunities to meet someone and send a wave file back and forth where you're in Florida, they're in Colorado, but this is still happening, but you haven't built that level of, I don't know, getting messed up and drunk together, sitting up till 4 a.m. talking and having that. So instead you're talking through art and music and your freaking soul, but you haven't had that moment yet and just have to find a way to trust each other.
But it's weird because you are talking through art, but it's because of the distance and the fact that it's all digital, it's a very sort of lonely kind of communication,
Yeah.
like sending letters,
No,
because
pen pals, musical pen pals.
yeah, that's kind of what it's like. So Fernando is so super fucking kind and patient, and he has been so amazing to work with, because he'll gently remind me if I tell him like I don't know when I'm going to get this done. He's just like, hey, no worries, take your time. Like, so he gave me a lot of that space to sort of figure out exactly how to approach it, which perfect, like for someone who hasn't collaborated like in that way before. And eventually I was on I'd been writing a couple of things like down, and I'm just like, I don't know if this is any good.
Yeah.
And then I went on family vacation, and we were up in the Smokies for a week. And there's one day everyone went out, and I was just like, look, I'm going to stay behind with the dogs, and I'm going to try to work on this. And it's just being alone with no internet, no cell service, in a secluded cabin in the mountains, which I can't believe,
Sorry, did
like,
you just describe the
fortunate enough
theme
to
of
do
a-
that.
Did you just describe the theme of a Stephen King novel?
It kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? No one broke in. I didn't die. The place wasn't haunted, unfortunately. But I I got a rough draft done that I felt good about. I was able to re-record it when I got home, and Fernando was really encouraging with everything that I sent him. And then, like, with the final take, he sent it back because, like, what he composed was just perfect. But considering that, like, I'd only worked on more like punkish death rock music before, it's definitely way more complicated than anything I've worked on. And he was like, do you want me to change? I was like, no, challenge accepted. That's probably way too much backstory and like how that came about, but that's how that came
No,
about.
that's
There
what
was
I
a
was hoping for. That's what I wanted.
yeah, a lot of patience, a lot of freaking out. Fernando's amazing. I cannot like fucking praise him more. I'm hoping we can do more stuff together long distance. I really had a great time working with him on it, and I love that he's like doing collaborative stuff. He just did another collab track with Bat Boy Slim. From, oh my god, why can't I remember who he's from?
That he did Witch Hands for a while.
Right.
Played guitar with them also in Colorado there.
Wasn't he doing something else though?
It's possible. The way that I first met them was when they played guitar in Witch Hands.
Right, because I know Witch Hands with Ryan.
Ryan. Yep.
I thought he was working on something else, and I'm totally spacing on whether or not that's true and what it even is.
I mean, who knows? Every day, nowadays everybody has like 33 projects, especially if you're a drummer.
Yeah, that is damn true. It's hard to keep up with sometimes.
So I love to hear the backstory on that, and I love to hear how it came together. I think that is something that's a big deal nowadays. I know for me, for Sounds and Shadows, in the new album we have coming up, it's been really exciting to get a chance to kind of bring all these people into it. And that's a lot of fun that maybe it was a lot harder or difficult back in the day before we could just send this stuff back and forward on the internet. Um, what do you think are some of the ways that, yeah, I mean, you said you kind of put a post out on Facebook, but from the other side of that, how did you kind of discern, for the reasons that we said before, how you found the right person that you could trust to be a part of this? Because I think a lot of people want to go out there and want to collab to move themselves forward. You expose yourself to a new audience, a new set of fans that they already have, but it's scary these days. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know who this person was, what maybe their politics were, I mean, a lot of things. And you have to also roll the dice putting your trust in this person. How do
Yeah.
you go about that?
Well, with Fernando, I'd known him a bit because Mouse and I had reviewed a Play Garden album, and uh, that's how we got in communication with each other for the first time, became Facebook friends, and kind of chatted back and forth a little bit, you know, feeling each other out on stuff. And I'm terrible at like communicating with people. So bless the people who message me first and then follow up and actually and do more than message like hi. Oh, I hate that.
It
Like
was me,
actually, God, you messaged me drunk in the middle of the night.
but I did talk. I didn't just
Yeah.
like,
It wasn't just I hate that when someone messages just like hi. When someone actually says something like in a message, it's great. And that's something that Fernando did, that's something you did. That's something that Ryan from Witch Hands did. And I'm just like, I'm happy to talk to everybody if it's a real conversation. I like those like connective conversations. Those are what makes me the happiest. And yeah, it's just I'd known him for a little bit on social media beforehand, and that helped. So he wasn't just like some rando dude.
yeah. I think it goes a long way too, to, as we both run review pages, we both do interviews with people online on YouTube, or you do reviews a lot on YouTube a bit. And so bands approach us a lot. I did a piece kind of taken from a bunch of different bands in the scene and so on and so forth, of doing promotion in 2021 or what have you, and how that's changed. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, collaboration. Yeah, you can pretty much just jump into anybody's DMs nowadays,
Mhm.
but how do you actually form a connection and get to know someone, especially maybe you're not a very extroverted person, and so that's extra hard for you. How do you find that connection and not just be, I don't know, hey, here's a link to my band, could you please review us? How do you
Hey,
be
yeah.
more than that to get attention? Because I know what the answer is for me, but I'm always curious to hear from other people. What is it that makes a band stand out to you, where you really get engaged with them and want to work on something with them?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely gotten plenty of messages where it's like, "Hey, generic person on my list number 102 for promotion. Here's a link to my new album. We would love for you to review us." And I get that a lot. And a lot of times when I go and I listen to it, I'm like, "You clearly have absolutely no idea what I do."
Mhm.
So that's a great starting point, is when someone comes to me and they're like, like, "Hey, I'm familiar with like X, Y, and Z thing that you did. I, liked this about it. I have an understanding of what you do and what your outlet does. And I would love to hear your take on my new thing, which I think you'll like for these reasons."
Or when you get, someone reaching out, hey, here's my thrash metal project, even though you do goth, death rock, dark, there's plenty of things you do, but instead it's completely off base, and it's
Mhm.
obvious that they haven't done any research to pay attention to what you're about.
Yeah. Yeah. With this is one where if I feel like I'm just a BCC on something, I won't even respond to an email.
Yeah.
Um, if it's a like message on my Instagram or Facebook, I usually don't read it because I'm just like I know that this interaction is just going to be transactional, and they obviously know that too based on how they sent this to me. So I was 10 seconds of wasted time for them, and that's it. But if it's something where they send me something that is really off base, it depends on how off base it is. If they're just polite about it.
It goes a long way. It does.
Yeah, because we reviewed Black Rose Burning, and that is outside of a lot of what we usually review, and a big part of that was just
Which
um
is amazing.
George is just really nice.
It's true.
So
Also, I can confirm, I'm going to do that on video now, that when I saw him on Friday, he actually does hit those high notes live. It isn't just using an auto tuner. in the studio. No, he nails that, and it splits the sky when he does it.
I honestly like wouldn't have thought that he used an auto tuner because the force of his personality, just like in his singing voice, is just it's huge.
I call him
And
Goth Peter Gabriel.
I think that's fitting.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
yeah. So no, I think that's true. Actually, I had one recently where, because of my birthday a couple days ago, where I had a lot of wonderful people reach out and wish me happy birthday, and it was so wonderful. And I had like 3 people that I didn't even know that well. I barely recognized me, that posted, "Hey Ken, happy birthday. Hope you have a great one. Here's a link to my band." And put up, I was like, now I feel like a hoe. You treated me like a hoe, and that's what I feel
Yes,
like now. Thank you. Thank you.
that is something
On my
that
birthday.
bothered me unexpectedly after I started Obscure and Dead, was interacting with people and realizing like this is not a human connection. This is a business transaction. And
Mhm.
I was just like,
And I'm not even
holy shit,
charged.
I don't want to be used in that way.
Right. Right.
I want to be treated like a goddamn person, and I want to treat these bands like people.
Exactly. Katie, do you to this topic, which great discussion here, and I love this, and I love, like I said, hearing other perspectives. Do you kind of have any perspectives of, because you've had, collaboration, people that you've worked with for your band, Katie Needs a Life, or working here with Sounds and Shadows? What are some of the things that you feel are important when doing collaboration?
Well, I mean, to what you all were saying, it can be an intimidating thing to walk into because, you put your own credibility on the line with who you work with. So when you are collaborating with someone, it's someone that you respect and you want to work with. So you don't want to be the thing that's dragging the project down if they're presenting you with something that you're like, wow, this is fucking gold and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's such a valuable asset to really participate in because it gets you out there and like just based on like how social media shares work alone, when you have multiple people who maybe are making a super group, then you have that many people who are sharing it instead of an assumed responsibility on whoever does the social media for the page or whatever. And so I mean, and it's like so rewarding because uh it's an amazing process to work with someone who's better at what they're at what you do than how you do it and stuff. Like it pushes you to your limits instrumentally, and that because I've been playing the piano since I was like 8 years old, and I feel like at a point you kind of reach a plateau. Like these are the things that I've learned, these are the things that I'm like pushing myself to based on my interests, and other people have influences from other places that you'd never expect.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much it. But yeah, I mean, like in regards, that's just my like 2 cents on that one. Sorry for rambling for a second. But
Way longer. You're good.
uh like I don't know how, because when I've been trying to promote my stuff, I think people assume that because I am the lead singer of a band or I'm part of a band at all, that I'm just naturally a very extroverted person. But when it comes to being like braggy or boastful about my own projects, I find that to be very, very difficult. And so I find the things that you both are saying to be really, really informative because, when you're just like sheepishly reaching out to people, you don't know how your text-based communications are being interpreted. And so it's good to know how to approach that so that somebody knows that you're coming from an authentic place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Authentic being like the key word for just everything.
It is, whether, I mean, you're talking about promotion of yourself or your project, or talking to someone to collab. If you're not just being yourself and being real, everybody sees through that. It really, it always, and then it comes to the thing, like I said, of the going on somebody you don't know that well and saying happy birthday to them and like posting a link or something. Like it always comes off awkward that way. And so just be genuine and talk to people and treat them like humans, especially people who are doing reviews or DJs or anything in the scene. All of them care about lifting up music.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't pay. We wouldn't be here if we didn't care about it. So come at us from that type of a standpoint and say, here's what my project is and here's what I'm doing, and I'm a fan of what you do, and I hope that maybe you would take time to be a part of that and listen to it and lift it up, because 99 out of 100 we're going to at least give it a try or do that if you reach out to us like a real human.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna
I mean, also
go ahead.
don't dead name people when you like ask them to review your stuff. That's never a good look. I've had that
No,
happen.
Oh my
no.
goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, that both for like Ken on your birthday. I'm sorry that somebody did that, but holy shit, Azy, I'm sorry. That's like
That's a whole different.
super, that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, this is something that I've spoken with some bands before who said like, oh yeah, I took a really basic like marketing course online and it really helped. And yeah, just learning how to present yourself and doing it in a human way that shows that you respect what you're doing and you respect what the other person is doing um goes a long way.
It does. I want to. There's so much I want to talk about. We've never done this before, and then so I'm gonna quick fire through. Another thing that I really love that you do, Azy, is bringing back there is a few now, but written zines. So for Obscura Undead, you've released issues now of printed zine.
Mhm.
And I've never done this for Sounds and Shows. We've only done online. And I love it. There's something to be said for back in the day when you hold it, when you'd look at the pictures, flip through the glossy pages and the excitement of finding new bands or new things happening in the scene, and you could hold it and you had it forever. Tell me a little bit about if you have future plans. I think I have all of the editions that you've released so far, but if you have a new one coming up and why you think that's an important part of the scene.
Well, in true zine fashion, we decided no, we're not going to stick to a schedule because manpower. We're going to put them out as we're inspired to put them out,
Sure.
which that's the real way you do zines, or at least that's what my books tell me. I have a bunch of books on zine making as well. I love zines. I think that they are a really important way for people to not just get music out there, but also their opinions on what's going on in the subculture, and to build up these smaller communities of just correspondence in a way that the internet doesn't really facilitate. It's like having a pen pal, but it's not a specific person. And I think people need to get more into like, do you have something you want to say? Great. Like put something together. It can be like 4 pages. Who cares? It can be like just a sheet of paper that's folded up. But if it has your opinion, if it's genuine, if you're passionate about it, put it out there, tell people about it, talk about like this act that you absolutely adore. I've seen people make like love letter posts on Facebook. Like imagine if like we had something like that in goth, where people who are fans of, say, I don't know, Crew Lies, like 5 or 6 of them band together and just put out a tiny little zine about how much they love the band.
I think you just described how I started Sounds and Shadows at 3 a.m. on Facebook, is letters to bands when I was drinking scotch at 3 a.m. And that
sounds like a total Ken move.
Right.
There's something to be said about print media. And when we had the unobscured zines, a big part of it is we didn't just want it to be reviews, and we didn't just want it to be interviews. We wanted to actually like talk about what it's like for people, especially people whose experiences you might not be familiar with or have ever even thought about, what it's like for people in the scene, because goth is not a monolith. It's far too fucking big for that. And you have people like of different socioeconomic backgrounds, different racial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, language backgrounds, every single background, like who experience the scene differently. I mean, hell, you can have a single city, and depending on who you meet first in a scene, your experience is going to be based on that for as long as you're in that scene, and it's not going to be the same as someone else who got into it in a different way, even if you're in the same spaces. What you appreciate, what you get out of it, it's all very different. What your opinion is on different things, it's going to be different. We are not monolithic. And I think that that's a really important thing that people need to get through their heads when they start making monolithic statements about goth. So just sharing the experiences of, we have some pieces that I don't know if they'll end up in a zine, but they're on queer experiences in the scene. They might get published on the site. I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to figure that out when I have, like bandwidth. But like queer experiences in the scene, the experiences of colored people, the experiences based on what city you live in. All of these are important. All of these are valid. Like we span tens of thousands of people across how many fucking years? Like 4 decades,
Right.
in vastly different parts of the world. Like look at the scene holistically. That's what I think zines are meant to do.
And a good portion of those, like you said, like talking about decades, not everybody has always had a microphone. Not everybody has always had a magazine or an outlet for that. And I do think that is one thing about the scene that has improved and has gotten better, is more opportunities like this have occurred to get those other perspectives. And I think that's the responsibility of all of us to find opportunities to lift those other voices up, because they've always been there. They just haven't always had an outlet at the front of the discussion.
Right. So a lot of times people make very broad sweeping statements about, the 40 years of goth. And it's just like, okay, that might be true in Leeds from 1982 to 1986, but what about everywhere else at every other point in time for everyone else?
Right.
I collect zines, specifically post-punk zines, because there's a lot of them. And there are what are they called?
You got a
One
couple
thing that's
favorites?
becoming really popular is publishing anthologies of like old like zine collections from mostly it's the UK right now, so from like Manchester and Leeds and those areas. But how these different people experience like the scene, just like even within like post-punk at the time, is very different. It's a time capsule. And that's another great thing that I think zines do, is that they are a time capsule. So to get to print something like that, to publish something like that, without having any kind of oversight or pressure for what has to be in it, has been really important, not just to me, but to Mouse and Ian, who are collaborators on the zine. We want it to mean something to all of us, like in that way, to be a time capsule of what's going on and what we see going on. I think it would be so much fucking fun to get a couple people together from like different places in the US and have everybody contribute 4 pages to like a a yearly zine of what their thoughts are and then just send them to one person and then just do a bunch of shitty Xeroxes and bind them and send them out. That would be so much fun.
I'm all in for this. I think we have to talk about how to blend this together and make this happen. I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant idea. I love
And
it.
I'm sure we could recruit other people too who'd be super into it.
Yes. Katie, do you have anything to add to the zine discussion before I move on to the last big topic I really want to hit with Azy?
Like, do you remember when we were talking with Rodney and he said that he was
Rodney
putting out,
Orpheus or Rodney Lynn?
oh yeah, sorry, Rodney Orpheus, and he was talking about how they were going to be re-releasing the Pagan News.
Yeah,
Does anyone have any updates on that? Because wasn't that also like a zine?
it was. And I'm not sure, Rodney just went through the big move right now, but that's a great question. I'm going to ask and follow up on that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of zines too. Like, I'm familiar with a couple of shops in Chicago, but let's say I was down in Tampa. Are there any cool comic book stores or bookstores that also have zines?
Not that I'm familiar with, but the closest thing might be like Mojo Books and Records in Tampa, where they have, it's a used bookstore and a used record store, but they have all sorts of like community supportive things. I never looked there specifically for zines. Actually, I think there's some record stores in St. Pete that have, oh, I can't remember the name of them, that have zines, but they're mostly like punk and metal focused.
If we ever did want to do a collaborative zine, I would go be all in for it. Just let me know.
Oh, I think that would be so much fun. And to actually like do it super DIY style. Oh,
I love this idea. I think the main thing that's held me back is I'm such a shitty writer and editor that I always have to go back the night after I write something drunk at 3 a.m. and fix everything I messed up when I hit publish. That if I did that in printed media, that could be very dangerous. So that's
Ken, didn't we just have a conversation about the importance of authenticity? Drunk at 3 a.m. is your authenticity.
Yeah, proofreading is not my forte. C's get degrees.
But when I spell people's names wrong and stuff, or like that's where it is important that I have a separate day to go back, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and have Rachel read it before I really publish stuff. Whereas sometimes online I get away with it where I put it out and then I put the onus of the band to DM me and say, Ken, thank you for the amazing review. That was great. Could you get these 3 things right? Because that would be wonderful too. I lean on that a lot.
Oh yeah, that's so embarrassing. Imagine if you do that in a YouTube video and you can't go back and edit it.
I don't have to imagine.
I've done it. And, oh, I'm always just like, I will pin a comment to this video. I am sorry.
Oop. That's our Midwestern. Oop. My
Oop.
bad.
Oop.
Oop. All right. The last thing, we could sit here and make this 3 hours long. I'm trying
Probably.
to, but
I'm a chatty Cathy.
the last thing that I really want to get to and talk
Give me
about is
water.
you were also a part of in the Tampa scene with Mark Paradise, the Absolution Fest. You, I believe, are DJing at it, but have also just been a part of, since this festival the last few years has been happening, know them and, with the castle, and have known a lot of what's going on there and been present for it. And I'm really excited for this. I think there's a lot of great things to talk about. They have an amazing lineup. So I wondered if we can kind of fire through some of the people that are going to be there and get some of your takes on some of the amazing bands. And we could just do like quick, Sounds and Shadows meets Obscura Undead, couple sentence reviews as we go through of why we like these bands.
All right. Well, before we do that, I just want to comment real quick. The way that Obscure Undead got involved in Absolution Fest is putting on a festival is a lot of work. And I went to Communion After Dark and I was like, look, I can do these things. Put me to work.
that goes along. I love that with collaboration
Mhm.
and just goes the same kind of things. You know, Sounds and Shadows, Chaos locally here, or Detroit shows. That's just it. You'd be amazed if you have a heart for this and care about doing it. You'll have skills that are useful. And if you want to be a part of the scene, we talked about how to like stumble your way in. If you're new in a town, or even if you've been there in a long time, just go ask, because none
Yeah.
of this stuff pays well, but it does pay well in terms of if you love and care about the scene, you can just be a part of it. If it's really in your heart and you want to, just ask. Walk right up and ask how you can be involved, and they'll
Mhm.
find a way.
And if anything, shit always needs to be carried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
always shit to carry.
carried, promoted, you know, I mean, helping out with this or that. There is always, and especially if you talk about a big festival like that, there is always things that need doing. And if you have a passion for it and a heart for it, be involved, because it's rewarding, it's fun, and having a connection with music and bands and the people in the scene, I don't know, it's my lifeblood. And
Mhm.
I, it could be for anyone. I'm not special in this in any way, shape, or form. You just have to ask, how can I be a part of it?
Yes, absolutely. Like some people are like, well, I don't know how to get involved. This is like just ask and actually show up and have conversations with people. I mean, like with Obscure and Dead, when so like Mouse is known. Mouse is also part of Communion After Dark, but when I first came, nobody knew me. The only person who knew me was Mouse.
Sure.
And there was that like initial like distrust of like, who the fuck is this person trying to blow everything up?
Sure.
And it's like, well, no, actually, I want everybody to succeed, but sometimes you just have to like show up and then keep telling people like, no, let me help, put me to work.
You want to
Or,
be rock?
to break down that initial like, who are you?
I mean, in my uh honest opinion, if you want to be the rock star to the rock stars that you love and respect the most, offer to help. Because if somebody is going to a festival as like a touring band, most of the time they've built a whole tour around that, and they can be pretty tired. And I mean, anything will get that conversation going, and any and all help is always appreciated. um but
I
yeah.
ask myself who the fuck I am every single day, and still wonder.
Yeah.
And you just, if you care about being a part of it, I think that's the other thing. And that's the thing to me that I always say with Sounds and Shadows works so well is, I love this shit. I'm genuinely excited. And when you talk about authenticity, I think that's why people like my reviews, because I am super freaking stoked.
They're
And
so chaotic. It's great.
you just can't fake that. Like you just, I really am. And if you have that kind of an energy where you actually just like this music, it is always really, really useful and important to everybody in the scene, because you just need to care. That's really, at the end of the day, the most important part. Though we'll find a way of what your talent is. You just have to really care. So, going along with that, Absolution Festival is happening in Tampa, and it is October 6th through 8th. It looks like at the Crowbar.
Yep.
They're
Exclusively at
sponsors.
Crowbar.
Yep, they're sponsored, because it has had other venues before, but this one is just Crowbar, and it has sponsors like Procession, another very cool zine and magazine that's gone along. There are DJs there like Rex Arcana, A Starry Night, Winters, who I absolutely love her show and Mixcloud and Vibe and Vamp Daddy. But I want to fire through some of these bands because it's all over the world. And this is a festival that really embodies kind of the up and coming fresh new scene that isn't just the Baja, Sisters of Mercy, The Cure, bands that have been there forever, but still into a great festival. And that's one of the things I've always been so excited as it is shined a highlight on bands that are new, up and coming, and bright in the scene. So, Azy, the KVB, thought.
Big name, big sound, big discography. I love the KVB. This is one of the bands that I am most excited to see. I mean, they just got great energy and it's just great post-punk, and it's always just, they're a jam. I'm gonna jam out. It's gonna be great. I need to bring some peanut butter because I'm gonna jam so hard. That's a bad joke. I'm very sorry.
No, that's a great joke. Apologize for nothing. And I agree. It is it is just one of those that you know what you're getting, but you're gonna love it no matter what. It's one of those that you show up knowing what to expect, and it's going to be great.
Oh, they could play anything from their discography and I'll be super happy.
I love that take. Minuet Machine.
So Min Machine, like I have a weird relationship with Min Machine. I'm just like, Violet Rain, great album. Infrarouge, great album. Then there was the one with the Scorpion that I'm like, and then the recent release, I'm like, I don't know what to expect, but we have Lion in a Cage, and I am here for it.
Boom.
I love I love those two. Like they have such a powerful presence. I love that they just do whatever they want with their music, and I love that like they shut down haters who tell them they're not feminine enough, like on socials. And I am like, yes, I love you like 10 times more, and I didn't even think that was possible. This is another thing that I'm doing for the fest, like for some of these international bands, just writing letters of recommendation to the government for the visa process.
It's so awesome that you did. I did that for Ash Code, I remember once for the States. And I remember just feeling so honored that they're like, wait, I'm an expert in this bullshit that I get to write a letter to the US.
Right?
Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Right?
That's
It's crazy. So because of like writing those for like Absolution Fest, I've gotten requests from like this promoter on the other side of the country, like, hey, can you write one for like Priest and this other band? And I'm just like, you know what? I am happy to. The more like music we can get to the States, the better.
Better. I love it. All right. Skipping through. Oh, wait, here's one near and dear to my heart. Crooksalize.
Not like we haven't mentioned them before in the last hour.
I believe played Absolution before once, correct?
Yes.
Crooksalize is just such an amazing band, and to me, one of those of this new wave of whatever post-punk dark wave. They're one of those, with your Actors, Bootblacks, Twin Tribes. Crooksalize is one of those that to me rode the crest of this new wave, and it's so beautiful. The vocals have such a unique tinge and have this awesome, echo in the Bunnymen level of feel and harmony to it. Amazing band. What are your take on Crooksalize?
I didn't really know about them until I saw them at Treffen in 2019.
Ooh.
And
now,
then
that's a huge venue to see them at too.
I was absolutely blown away, and I went and I found Ian afterwards, and I was just like, "You're amazing. I'm going to meet you in Tampa when you're at Absolution Fest later this year." My partner is currently behind the camera, hitching up his shorts so that they look like Ian's shorts.
That's awesome. All right, you know what? I've never shared this story before, but I'm gonna do it here in this video. They were one of those bands that when they did Hearth, I did a review of, and without me doing, this is kind of when I first started Soundshow, Ian reached out and said, I was having this really terrible week and wondering just why do I do this and why do I even go on? And I read your review and I felt like you really got it. And it kind of just like got me through this week. And it was one of those, one of those moments, yeah, at the beginning of Sounds and Shadows, why would I want to do this? Why do I bother to do this? It was one of those moments that you remember these artists that you love in the same way need that kind of energy and inspiration and lift up just as much as we need them. And that's why it is so important to go on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, sharing a thing, Reddit, whatever, but just letting people know that you appreciate the music that they're doing, because it's a big deal. And any artist at any level needs to hear that.
I'm going to take this for an aside. For like, one of my proudest moments is with This Cold Night. We did a review of Black Cherry, and the artist, he's not on social media, but he reached out to me through email and wrote this whole thing about how I really understood exactly where he was coming from with that release and how I got it, and how he wanted to have Obscure and Dead do like the first interview that he's ever done with him. And I was just like, oh my God, you're an artist who sings about like queer issues in goth music, and I am so fucking honored to do this. Like, that's that authenticity again, like feeling that real human connection that makes everyone feel seen.
It does. All right, I'm gonna start going fast now. We're gonna go through.
Okay.
Foreign Resort. That's a legend. Foreign Resort is a legend in the post-punk scene, and always puts on an amazing show.
I haven't seen them live. Really looking forward to it. Foreign Resort, like you said, legend of post-punk. They're up there with the KBB for me.
Yeah. Traitors.
I think I've seen Traitors like 2 or 3 times now, and they never disappoint. They're always so much fun to watch.
So freaking awesome. It was funny. I just talked to Pete Burns of Kill Shelter, and he has his Rule of 3 group with Christian that he does.
Oh yeah, he hasn't done that in a hot minute, has he? Yeah. Christian's been working on his Vera Kellerkinder.
Yeah, they
forgot all about that.
A Rule of 3 review to a band if they're 10 out of 10 for both him and Christian. And Traitors is one of the bands that they hold up as, they were like one of the first ones to really hold up and say, this is 10 out of 10. Everybody needs to know this. True. Bestial Mouths.
All right.
Is this one you don't know well again? That's okay.
No, this is one I've seen them before. I don't dislike them, but they're more on the electronic side for me. Sure. And I have this like weird relationship with Sopranos.
Okay.
Where I get super like particular, but that's because I have tinnitus, and there are just some frequencies where my ears are like, nope.
I think one of the things for Bestial Mouse for me is just, it's so raw. Like they really embrace this, I don't know, just unnerving rawness that I can't help but be moved by it. I think that's the thing that gets me about them. French Police.
This is another one of my big bands that I am super excited for. I cannot wait to see them. I love French Police. It's more post-punk. It's more like big name. Yes, please, like post-punk. I'm really excited to see them.
All right.
Miss Syzygics.
Syzygics. This is the next one up. And to me, this was, I mean, a big story. This is a cold transmission band, really kind of went through a change, and Luna is reinvented the sound and herself in doing it. And I am so excited to kind of hear her new concept out the other end.
Same. I've seen Syzygics like prior to this. So I'm really, really interested in how the whole stage setup and the delivery and these changes are going to happen. But I know that Luna's going to do amazing. Like, she is such a huge force of nature personality. I don't think it's going to be anything less than top notch.
She's just such one of those just bright burning stars that you can't help but be excited for.
Mhm.
um, Corlix, also coming from England, has traveled all over, but just Caitlin has this rock star energy that I like the new sound. I like the new album. Before that, I'm one of those people that like kind of one of my biggest, when people ask me my hot take that nobody is asking for, it's that Hole is better than Nirvana. And Corlix has this whole Courtney Love energy
Mhm.
done with electronic music. Her and Brandon, that I love the sound. I love the 90s grungeness mixed with electronic goth of it.
I'm looking forward to seeing their theatrics
Yeah.
because everything they've done just looks super aesthetic. And you don't get that element, that like visual performative element, like when you're listening um to just like an album. So I'm looking forward to having that with them, because I think that they're gonna push me over. I think that could push me over the edge to being just like, yeah, they're all right, to yes, I love it.
Yes. Skipping ahead here to Hexheart, a band that Katie and I have an interview coming up with, but just really awesome, really dark, electronic, filthy dance beats from Seattle, and just a great sound I'm excited for. I know you had sent that, again, that's another one you don't know a ton about. Uh,
Yeah, I only know of one or two tracks and they're not super my jam, but hey, this is why I'm looking forward to the live performance. My opinion has been changed on so many bands just by seeing them live. So
The Purge, a great friend of mine that does just angry Southern electronic industrial beats with kind of a 9 Inch Nails slashing vocal style. Also a great teacher. I love that he's an English teacher too.
really,
Yeah, definitely. Die Robot from Portland, which is Barbie, just a very cool electronic band that has an amazing aesthetic, energy, and traveling a long way, all the way from the other side of the country to land down in Tampa. So I'm very excited for that.
I know the next one on the list is Violent Vicky.
Yes.
I'm waiting to see how I feel, because I haven't really cared for much of what I've heard. But then again, that is again like my ears. I'm gonna have to bring earplugs. You know what? I need to figure out a way to like fix this, because there are just some frequencies that if I can fix that, I know I can enjoy way more music than I do now. And I want to enjoy the full rainbow of music.
That's fair. I think the big thing with Violent Vicky that I really like is that the punk rock aspect, the anger, the politics. There's somebody who really like uses the spirit of their music first, and the output of the music as an after effect to what they're trying to say. And
I love that.
I feel like I'm always on board with every cause that's first and foremost with Vicky before I even try and listen to their music, whether it's for the Ukraine or anything else. There's someone who just puts their politics in front of them and isn't afraid to just say what they believe. All
I
right.
love that.
So we fired through a lot of those. Everybody that gets a chance should go out there to check out Absolution Fest in Tampa. It's just one of those, like when I talked to Jason Corbett, I remember a couple years ago about this, him telling me he got there and looked around and made friends with everybody there because it's such an important thing to mark that these aren't just good bands, they're good people. And he said, I immediately felt this sense of camaraderie with the fans, every band that was there, all these things, because good people gravitated towards this festival and this scene.
Yes. Mark from Comedian After Dark and Pete from Indoxa Booking, like they care so much and they have put so much of themselves into the fest. And it shows, like they really, really care. This isn't just about like, hey, what bands do we want to see that we're gonna bring to town? Like they want to uplift like all of these acts and bring some of the bigger ones down and just share their love with everyone. And I still can't believe that we have a fest in Tampa now. I think it's amazing. I know that Mark told me something to say and I completely forgot about it until right now. So please talk while I look at my phone.
Katie, do you have any parting shots before I introduce the song that we're going to roll out to about anything we've talked about?
I mean, we could seriously talk for the rest of the night about so many expansions off of what we've already discussed or what the plans hold for the future. But it's just truly been a pleasure finally getting a chance to talk to you. I've kind of admired your profile from afar and
Isn't
really
that
respect what you're doing and stuff. So, I hope that Absolution Fest is a fucking awesome event and that you have a lot of fun. I'm really excited for all of these bands to come together and finally kind of, because it's a lot of them haven't really had the chance to tour like this in years or ever. So it's really, really exciting to have that type of energy. In Tampa, of all places, it's going to be a fucking riot. So I'm excited for you and look forward to all of the pictures and videos from the event.
It's always a good time.
Yeah,
It's an absolute whirlwind. And I just had to give Mark some love, and I did. Mark is great from Comedian After Dark. Like, he does such a good job with this. Like, huge kudos. And if anybody's looking to get tickets, obligatory, go to absolutionfest.com. There's a link like right underneath the like promo card. So please come see us. Tampa is great. Ybor is beautiful. It used to be a cigar making town. We got great Cubans, which is a sandwich, but they're also cool Cubans, the people.
It's true. Oh, but for the record, let's not take anything away from the sandwich, which is amazing. I'm a huge fan of the sandwich.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the perfect bread, mustard, whole pork,
pickles,
ham.
the
The
perfect
pickles.
combination.
Okay, we need to get off this topic. I'm getting hungry and I don't want to eat before bed.
That's fair enough. So, Azy, has been a true pleasure having you here. I'm so glad that you finally made it on. I respect so much what you do. And again, like coming up and doing this with Sounds and Shadows, you were one of the people that I really, whether it was in interviews or writing or whatnot, looked to as an inspiration. And I know you and I both like talking back and forth, kind of holding each other up, holding each other accountable. You know, you're somebody that I go to when I'm a little bit lost in where do I go with this in the scene, or I'm worried, and has always been there to kind of talk to me and keep me on point. And so please always keep doing that. And I really, really appreciate you.
Yeah. I mean, we don't always come to, like an answer on stuff, but we can at least talk about it. And I love collaboration, even if it's just sharing ideas. That's still a conversation is a form of collaboration, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, human connections, like, yeah, our scene very much music forward, music first, but it's those human connections between us that just really make everything so special.
Yeah. So from all of us here at Sounds and Shadows, we are going to spin out to Plague Garden featuring Azy Bats, the song Pandora. And this single is available on Bandcamp.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to check it out. And for all of you out there in interwebland, keep it dark, yo.